Right, everybody, and welcome back to the Wolfpack YouTube channel. Got a really big transfer roundup today.
We're out for blood. Here it comes, here it comes. Better run. When the wolves come out to play.
Really looking forward to this one. I'm joined by Dan. How are you doing, mate?
I'm all good, mate. How are you?
Yeah, I'm very good, thank you. It feels weird because I'm actually doing a YouTube video this time
He's
instead of a
back.
podcast. So
He's back.
it does feel a bit weird, but I'm really looking forward to it because we've got a lot to discuss.
Yeah,
And
man.
let's get straight into it. We're going to talk about Rodrigo Gomes, Wolves' new signing. I mean, a deal that was sort of always lingering. I mean, there was a lot of sort of press around the deal in January from like the Portuguese media, but a deal that sort of went quite quiet, didn't it? And then suddenly David Ornstein drops the bomb that he is going to be joining Wolves on a permanent deal. So what do you think of it, Dan?
Like I've said a few times, I'm all up for it. To be fair, seems like a player that's very versatile, fits into Gary's system really well. I feel like the end of the season, we needed players like him to come on off the bench and show a little bit of quality and stuff. And obviously he's new to the English game, so it's going to take a little bit of time to bed him in and everything. But I'm optimistic about it. To be fair, I think he's a good signing, definitely.
Yeah, I think everyone knows that he's going to be raw. He's going to have to adapt to the league, but the promise is there. I think 14 goal contributions last season on loan at Estoril, and is a real versatile player as well. I mean, we spoke about this in the podcast. We spoke about it on the transfer video that you did. Spoke about it in the podcast with Reaper that we done. Make sure you check that out. But I mean, his range of positions, as you said, I mean, the guy can play right back, he can play right wing. I think he's played left back a few times, left wing. So he's got pure versatility, and that's exactly what you need. So I think you can't really complain. I think, as you said, in addition to bolster the squad, because squad depth and sort of squad size is something that Wolves have struggled with for so long. A few injuries and the squads go into the sort of bare bones, and you don't want that. You want to have a squad that's ready to compete. So I'm really happy with the signing personally. Quite a cheap fee as well, not too expensive. Early
business as well. Early business is something that Wolves aren't really known for. So gotta like this signing for that as well. Really, for what we all assumed would happen is probably wait till the Euros die down and then sort of spend then. So it's good to see us doing some business early on.
No, yeah, you're spot on. And then we're going to get over to the sort of potential squad now. I mean, a recent article from The Athletic, which was a really good piece actually, sort of dissects the Wolves squad, and it sort of went through each individual player and sort of gave us the sort of idea of sort of how their summer is going to look like, whether they're expected to stay at Wolves, whether they're expected to leave. And we're going to start with Pedro Neto. So obviously, a massive player for Wolves. I mean, if he hadn't got injured at Fulham and hadn't have had a few injuries prior to that, I mean, he probably would have been looking at Wolves as player of the season, because those sort of first few months where I think he racked up 9 assists. I mean, he was absolutely unplayable, wasn't he, Dan? I mean, he was absolutely superb.
I mean, we missed him when he went out, didn't we? As soon as he went out, you were fearing the worst, really, because he was the one player that was getting you up the pitch, and he was the one player that got you off your seat. And a lot of players, we've had them in the past and whatever, but they've not been able to actually provide anything at the end. And like you look at Adam Traore or players like that, really. And I feel like what Neto did at the start of the season was, especially the first time I saw it was against City, where he just made them look ridiculous. It looked like every single time he'd get forward, he'd score, and that's just absolutely balmy when you think about the opposition that you're playing. And I think we missed that like crazy when he obviously, ended up getting injured a couple of times, which is bad luck, really.
Yeah, I think you're completely right. I think the spark that he brought to the team, I think he was unplayable at times. And when it comes to his situation, the Athletics say that Pedro Neto is most likely going to be the big player that Wolves do cash in this summer. I think, as sad as that is, I think it is as expected. He'll certainly be missed. I mean, the fans absolutely adore him. But I think it's very much the case that he doesn't necessarily affect us as certain players do. For example, which I will get onto in more detail, but yeah, Ait-Nouri, Joao Gomes is because at the end of the day, he hasn't really played a full season for us apart from that lockdown season. Because sadly, he's just a very injury-prone player. So that is sort of a shame. And the signing of Rodrigo Gomes, in my opinion, sort of showed that maybe it will be Pedro Neto to go because obviously, as we said, Gomes can play on that right wing.
It's very similar in terms of ability, but I feel like obviously Neto's have got a lot more quality at the moment. But he's had a lot more time in the English game to
5 years now.
So you know what I mean. He wasn't that great when we first bought him, was he? If you remember,
no, he was quite raw, but he definitely had a big spark. But as you said, I mean, it will take time to adapt for Rodrigo Gomes. But we're coming from Braga as well. I mean, I know we technically signed Neto from Lazio, but he's obviously played at Braga. And as he said in Rodrigo Gomez's interview, he said that he wants to sort of follow in the footsteps of Pedro Neto and have a similar sort of impact on the team as he's had, so you can't really go wrong with that. And for his sake, I hope he really does stay injury free, and I hope he has a good Euros. Obviously not against England, but I still I certainly don't want him to get injured. And it'll be beneficial for his sake and our sake, because if he does have a good Euros and he does stay injury free, then his value and stock is just going to go even higher, because and that's what you want. As much as I do not want to sell Pedro Neto, I've sort of got it in my head that he probably will be departing Wolves this summer, and so if we could get.
Sorry, I think he is the player that really we could sort of live without in a way, just because of his injury record. He obviously needs to be in a team that's not going to use him over and over and over again, and I just feel like that's what we needed to do. I don't blame anyone involved for his injuries, but I do think that in another team he'd be able to space his minutes out a bit more and sort of gain some fitness. So I just feel like we just played him too much.
Yeah, I think that was sort of due to our squad depth, wasn't it? Because I think Gary O'Neill talked about it as well. He said that a lot of players are getting way more minutes than they should be getting because we simply don't have the players to cater for them. And he said that we were sort of overloading loads of our players. That's why probably we had our front three injured at one point in the season because we had to constantly play them because we didn't really have the depth to sort of back them up. So
cool.
Yeah, it will be a shame to see him go because, as he's a fan's favourite, and I've absolutely loved watching him for Wolves. But sadly, I do think this summer will be the summer that he does depart the club, and I hope that it's for a really respectable fee. I hope it's sort of 50 million plus. I'd be very happy.
And he
with
goes
that.
with our blessing as well. You know what I mean?
Oh, 100%.
Matheus Nunes and stuff like that. But this is a completely different sort of ball game. He arguably like kept us up in during the COVID season. I always go back to that. Like he was the only really real player other than Neves really that was even showing any sign of goal threat. So I think like we owe it to him just to see his career blossom, and I don't think that's in a Wolves shirt, unfortunately.
Yeah, I think players come and go, don't they? So we're going to move on to the next sort of trio, which is sort of what I was referring to when I was speaking about Pedro Neto. Joao Gomes, Ait-Nouri and Cunha. So basically what the Athletic have said about those three is they've said that they will only leave if a really sort of substantial offer is submitted because they're all tied down on long-term contracts, that type of thing. So we'll start with Gomes and Ait-Nouri. For me, me and Dan have said this numerous times. I mean, we believe that those two are Wolves' most two influential players. I think if you get rid of them, Wolves, the squad and the starting XI are going to miss something really, really big. I think Joao Gomes, what he sort of brings to the midfield, he's up and down. He's never really injured. Ait-Nouri, what he can do on the ball. I mean, the guy is literally, he's a magician on the ball. He can sort of, the way he sort of, his ball carrying, his flair, like the guy's just absolutely brilliant and one of my favourite players, honestly. And those players are crucial. And selling either of them, for a fee that isn't, crazy money would be stupid. And with someone like, for me, Joao Gomes, his ceiling is so high, you wouldn't even get his full value if you was to sell him.
I feel like his value is only going to go up. I feel like one more season, Brazilian international, he's playing games now and everything. Why would you sell him when he's at his cheapest, you'd wait, really, wouldn't you? Really, and I think he's still got a lot to give as well in our midfield. I feel like go to another team, you've seen what happens to Matheus Nunes and everything. You know, he might get just benched and forgot about. So I do think another season does him well in every sort of aspect. I think everyone would be happy with that.
Yeah, I completely agree. I think another season will be good for his sort of sake, so he can develop and get better, and for our sake, because, you know, we're keeping a quality player. And with Ait-Nouri, I think, as I've said, what he brings to the team, I certainly won't be getting rid of that. I think he's moved to Algeria recently, and I think he's been even flourishing in that system as well. I think Gary O'Neill absolutely loves him, because we spoke about before how Lopetegui didn't like him. It was crazy to me how he wasn't getting any game time. And it just shows that, you know, under the right manager, a manager that sort of believes in you, can really get the best out of you.
Yeah,
and then the next one, excuse me, Cunha. A player that for me, one of our players of the season. I thought his sort of goals and assists that he produced. I think he's adapted really well. He's become. I think the fans loved him as soon as he joined because of his sort of infectious personality. But this season. Exactly. Yeah. This season, his numbers have been, they've been worth the money. His goals, his assists, the sort of way he can, similar to Ait-Nouri, sort of, progress the ball, the way he can sort of dribble past players. I remember first game of the season, I was at Old Trafford in the Wolves end, and Cunha then, I mean, he was literally just dribbling past Casemiro and Varane and all that. It was literally like they weren't there. He was just cutting through him like butter. It was insane. And I think the role that he's been given is very sort of similar to Ait-Nouri. Gary O'Neill has said to them, you can have the freedom, because at times Cunha's been in like centre mid, he's been playing left back, dropping deep to get the ball, and that's the thing which I'll get onto in a sec. But he's not. It
suits him as well, doesn't it?
He's
like
not.
It really,
it suits him.
It suits him to have that freedom, and it might look a little bit sometimes this season where he's looked a bit of a headless chicken and stuff, but I think even then he's managed to, in terms of the game, gain enough composure to actually look very, very good in majority of the games he's played. I don't think he's a number 9, personally. I don't think he holds the ball up, and I don't think he's strong enough in that regard. I feel like he could be, definitely. That profile could develop in his play, but at the moment, the way we play him, I'd love to see him as a 10 or out wide,
or like a false 9 almost, alongside a number 9.
Yeah, definitely.
I agree. I think
unbelievable.
I think it's very much the case with Cunha is a lot of the time he isn't really in the box because he's dropping so deep. He's, sort of everywhere all over the pitch. I think it's very much the case that he doesn't have that sort of striker instinct to be in the box and get the tap-ins. I can only
the way I see it is he's almost got that like Harry Kane Spurs role where he sort of drops back, wins the ball, and then looks out wide for like a Son or whatever. Do you know what I mean? I think that's his game for me. I think he drops back, wins the ball, gets you clear of into some space, and then he'll feed the ball basically. I think that's his game, and I think that's.
At the end of the day, he's played in a Simeone system where the strikers have to defend, and he's more than happy to track back, win the ball back from where Kilman is or something, and then drive with the ball. And I completely agree with what you mean. He's very similar to Kane when it comes to the way he drops deep, and the only difference is Kane sort of relies on his passing range, where Cunha relies on his ability to beat a man and drive with the ball. And I think, as we've just sort of mentioned, if he could play alongside an actual number 9 where he could sort of link off, I think he'd be even better than he already is. And I think there's a lot more to come with him. And we can also talk about the recent sort of video that's come out. I think it was I don't know whether it was a friend or some just random person, but they sort of asked Cunha about links to Manchester United. And Cunha was sort of like saying, don't ask me about this originally. And then he sort of, because the guy was so persistent, he sort of folded and said that you never know, and we'll have to see what happens. The transfer window's open, and a lot of Wolves fans have sort of reacted quite badly to this. But for me, I don't think there's that much in it, really. I think a lot of people.
It's just two mates talking in it. Do you know what I mean? Like,
it's just a bit of banter. Yeah,
Yeah, it's a bit similar to something we saw not too long ago, where I can't remember what play it was, but they were having a conversation and saying, "Oh, I think it was Joao Gomes saying, oh, you know, you'll see me back at Flamengo at one point, you know," and everyone was like, "Well, what do you mean? What do you mean?" And it's like, I think he's being just ironic. Do you know what I mean? Just a bit like a bit of banter between friends. Do you know what I mean? It'd be like me and you saying something and then people taking that as concrete evidence for something. It's just,
I think people take it as badly as it can come. Really, I
Yeah.
think he's just trying to be respectful. You know, he doesn't want to say like bin Man U off, and then if he joins there, you know, the fans are going to bring that up and go, "Well, look what you said." He just wants to be respectful, and I think if anything, he wanted the guy to stop pestering him because it's not what you really want to answer when you're on holiday. But I think he sort of just folded really and said that. I'm certainly not too bothered about it personally at all. And then let's move on to the players that the Athletic have said that are likely expected to depart the club. So Fabio Silva, obviously Wolves is, you know, a big signing for Wolves. A player that simply, you know, he's on air as we speak, and it's just not quite happened, has it, for him, really? I think it just sort of sums up his Wolves career. You know, he moved to Rangers on loan, and Wolves fans and myself, I thought, you know, it's a good move for him in a league that isn't the best in the world. I was thinking, okay, if he can get, you know, 15, 20 goals there, and I think he's ended up the season on about 5 goals or 6 goals. So it's just not really worked out for him, and it sort of just sums up his Wolves career. And I think it's very much the case now that we all wanted him to succeed at Wolves. You know, we all got behind him, but it just hasn't happened. And I think we have to really firm the loss and just, you know, both parties need to just sort of move on, don't they?
Get what we can for him now. Forget about the fact that, you know, his figure was so inflated. We already know now through you know, him talking about Porto and stuff that it was more of a move that Uncle George had to make to make Porto some money. Do you know what I mean? Like, it was almost like it was helping all parties other than Wolves, really. You know what I mean? It was almost like, Wolves will do it. Wolves will buy him, no problem. Do you know what I mean? And it was a bit like, bit of naivety really between us. I think we should have probably just told him to just stuff himself really at that point. But it's one of them. It's one of them. I think. I feel like it was a massive risk to buy him. It hasn't paid off, and not all risks are going to pay off. Do you know what I mean? Like, you're not gonna get a Raul Jimenez every time you sign a striker, are you? Do you know what I mean? Like, it's not going to happen. So, cut our losses, I think, with Fabio. See what we get for him, and I think it will help him as well. I think it will help his confidence if he's got somewhere we can call home permanently as well. Yeah,
exactly. I think maybe if it's a move back to Portugal or whatever, I think at the end of the day, he was thrown into the deep end really, and he can't help his transfer fee. But I just don't think certain times, I don't think the way he's sort of spoken in the press, I think the way that he, for example, celebrated after he scored for Rangers, I think he like pointed to the back of his shirt or something, like certain things like that he really hasn't helped himself with, I don't think.
No.
There is talent there. I just don't think he's a Premier League player. I don't think he's quite physically built enough, and he will be a player that hopefully Wolves move on for both parties' sakes, as I've already mentioned. So the next one is Daniel Podence. Obviously moved back to Olympiacos on loan, which we all thought was a good move, and he's done really well. Lo and behold, you know, not the strongest league in the world, but he's won the European Conference League with them. And, you know, you've got to give him credit for that. He was a sort of very mainstay in that side, started pretty much every game, scored, I think he got goals and assists against Villa when they played.
I was going to say that he was basically the man of the match for me in that game, really, to be fair.
Yeah, probably apart from, I was going to say, apart from El Arabi, who bagged 4th, whatever it was.
I just think he was pulling the strings, and he was pulling them as well, weren't he? Do you know what I mean? He was one of them players, innit? Just gets under his skin. And I mean, he's done that for us for a long time now.
He was getting booed as it was because he used to play for us. So.
Yeah. So it was the right style of game for him, I think. I think in games like that, under pressure, in Europe games, I think he would have done well for us under Nuno. Because we saw it countless amounts of times in big games. He could get a goal or two.
I agree. I think he was quite underrated at times, you know. I didn't really like his attitude at times, whether that was sort of on the pitch when he was sort of diving quite a bit, sort of moaning all the time, or whether it was off the pitch where, for example, under a period under Lopetegui when he weren't playing. He was putting like stuff on social media, how like he kept winning. He was on the winning team in training. I don't know if you remember that. Can't remember the exact caption he always used, I think. But he basically sort of bragged that, he's always on the winning team, and he's also unfollowed Wolves on Instagram. So I think it's very obvious, really, that his sort of Wolves career is ended. And
he said to his dad as well, didn't he, a while ago as well, that he didn't want to go back and whatever. And it is what it is. At the same time, like if a player doesn't want to play for you, it doesn't matter what he can do in other teams. We've seen this with Guedes. Like, we'll talk about him in a minute. It doesn't matter what you see. If a player doesn't want to play for you, you haven't got that player at the end of the day. And that's kind of what happened with Podence, I think. At first, when he joined Wolves and everything, I think he was a really exciting player, wasn't he? A bit like a bit like Hazard,
Took Jota's place.
Bit like Hazard, really low centre of gravity. Couldn't get the ball off him, and he was just a bit of a pain. And he was a player that we really needed at the time. But I feel like Gary, in the right mindset, would actually do well with him. But I just think you've got to have both people wanting the same thing.
Yeah,
and if he doesn't, then there's no point, man.
No,
and I feel like we'd
agree.
get decent money for him, really.
Yeah, I think we could get maybe, I think this season has only helped his value, really, hasn't it? I think we could certainly be getting sort of 10 to 15 million, maybe. And I think last season, I think he was underrated at times. He was very much a scapegoat for a lot of the fans, probably because of his attitude, which, as I've said, he didn't help himself. But, he scored some really big goals for us. I remember, I say last season, technically season before, you know what I mean? The goal against, I think it was West Ham, he did score some big goals for us. And I think Forest, where we drew 1-1. So, he scored big goals for us. But at the end of the day, as we both said, he doesn't want to be here. And as much as if he was if his head was in the right space and he wanted to play, I think he would be a player that would be quite useful. But at the end of the day, it's if buts and maybes, isn't it? Because that's not going to happen and he's going to be moved on. And then the next player is Guedes. Bit of a different situation with Guedes, because I did say that they're expected to depart, which Guedes is expected to depart, but he's expected to be go on a loan with an option or obligation to buy. I think that's due to him having 3 years left on his deal, and I think it's very much the case that Wolves want to let him go, let him try have a really good loan spell, and then his stock will increase and we could try get as much money as we can for him, really. But as we said, a player that didn't want to be here from the start, and you just can't be signing players that don't want to be at the club. It's as simple as that. What do you think, Dan?
He didn't really show enough for me, to be fair. And even where he is now, I don't think that for the fee that he actually is worth and everything, I don't think you get the player. I haven't seen enough. Do you know what I mean? A player of that value, really, you should be looking at sort of Cunha figures. You should be looking at Hwang Hee-chan figures. Do you know what I mean? And with him, I don't think you see that. I think you see average. If I'm honest, I think he's okay when he wants to play for you. But
there's a player there. But at the end of the day, I think a few injuries, a few niggles. I think the fact that he didn't want to be here, I think it was just very hard for him to sort of almost get going. Like, I felt like when he was on the pitch, he just weren't very confident. I think he obviously just didn't settle, and it just didn't happen for him.
I always thought he looked really awkward with his movement as well. I always thought, like,
I do agree.
He never looked like a progressive sort of player where you thought he'd probably be getting that when you look at his YouTube highlights before we bought him.
Yeah,
he looked like a guy that was going to get in the box and finish all the time, and he never did. He always seemed to just drift too far out wide, lose the ball, or a little bit like Trinco, in my opinion. Like, that sort of player, like, really good in like a Europe setting, but when it comes to the UK, they just can't sort of keep up with the physicality of the game.
Yeah, I think it's the game sort of just drifted by for them, didn't it? Really, and it's one of them. He'll move on. Hopefully, it is with an obligation, and I hope he has a decent loan spell, I guess. The next player is our captain, Max Kilman. mean, a player that's been a real talking point throughout the season, probably due to the fact that he was given captaincy. A lot of fans didn't agree with that. A lot of fans thought that he didn't really have the leadership qualities to be warrant captain. But I think it was very much the case that he's been at the club a long time. I think he's, apart from Doc, I think he's our longest serving player in the squad. Could be incorrect by that, but I would say he is. And he is a player that the board, I think, rate highly, especially like Matt Hobbs, Jeff Shy, O'Neill as well. He's just quite respected throughout the club, and he was given captaincy.
From what I know about, from what I've heard from inside the club, he's very much a yes man. So
Kilman,
like a very much a teacher's pet. Like he'll just be like, "Oh yes, sir, free, yes sir," to pretty much everything Gary says and whatever. And I feel like you do need that in your club, but I don't know with Kilman. I think he's a good defender. He is. You can't be linked with teams like he's been linked with, like West Ham and that, but without being a decent player. But I just think the captaincy just outweighed him completely. It just made everything just so much more, I don't know, risky. Everything just seemed really risky with him. Like, oh, should I pass back? Oh, should I keep the ball here? Or should I go forward? It never really looked like he was comfortable in what he was doing this season.
Yeah, I think
other than when he had Dawson with him. That was
that's what I was going to say. I think, as you said, he had a tough season. Maybe, as we said, that was due to the pressure of being captain. But I actually disagree. I don't think he's the best defender. I think he's good on the ball. But I just think, considering how big of a bloke he is, I think a lot of the time he doesn't really win his aerial duels. He gets sort of muscled off the ball sometimes.
He gets caught wrong-footed a lot.
I was going to say, he gets dragged out so much. And, I think Kilman, when he first come through the club, I think he was exceptional, but I think he has declined. And I really hope that is due to sort of him being...
When you get Kobe Mainoo, who's barely played for Man United, just completely just leave you one side and go the other, you have not got enough Premier League experience to be a central defender. You just don't. I'm sorry. Like, Kobe Mainoo is a fantastic player, but should he be doing that at Molineux? Should he be given that much room? And that was just one of many mistakes that he made as well. I feel like I do understand what you're saying. Like, he's arguably our worst defender at some points of the season. He actually was. Like, Santi Bueno, but he's barely had any game time and he's only just gone into the squad. I think Toti Gomez has been better than him for most of the season.
He's a lot more solid defensively. And I just think with Max, what the sort of news that the Athletic was saying was Wolves do expect him to stay at the club. However, if a bid in the region of 40 million, for example, would be submitted, Wolves would accept that and sell him. And you can't really disagree with that. I mean, we were all quite surprised when Wolves rejected 35 million euros from Napoli because we bought him for such a cheap fee. It is pure profit. I think that's how it works in the FFP situation. And so we were all quite shocked, actually, that Wolves rejected that. And then as soon as that happened, we gave him a new 5-year deal. But I think if West Ham, for example, who, as you said earlier, have been interested in him, if they were to offer sort of 35 million, 40 million, I think Wolves would certainly accept that. And as much as I really like the guy and would wish him all the best if he was to depart, I think it's a really big season for him if he does stay because he needs to show the level
especially as
previously shown. Yeah, because there were points under Bruno Lage where, he was talked about potentially being in the English squad, and now, I mean, I don't think I'd put him probably top 7, top 8 English centre backs. Do you know what I mean? So
you know what's really awkward is that the English squad at the moment. This could someone will clip this because we'll be absolutely amazing at the Euros and defensively we'll be incredible.
I think I know what you're going to say. Let me try read your mind. You're going to say England lack left-footed centre back.
Yeah, and they just lack defensive options. Maguire's injured. There's if you look at our centre backs at England at the moment, that does not fill me with confidence when I look at the players that they're going to be up against. Yeah, okay, Kilman's probably, would be not even anywhere near as good as them anyway. But at the same time, if he'd have shown enough this season to what we've seen under, say, Lopetegui. I actually think that he would have gotten the England squad this season. And the fact that he hasn't is testament to what Gary must think of his performance this season. Both Garys.
Yeah, I know what you mean. You're saying the bar wasn't exactly that high, but I do think it's a weird one with Kilman. I think, as we've said, he needs to get the levels next season. He needs to, if it is at Wolves, which it could well be. I think it's very interesting also to see if he will be captain next season, because it'd be quite a big thing to do to take captaincy off him. As much as a lot of Wolves fans wouldn't mind that, I don't think it would do him very good, would it?
No, I think, but of all players, though, I actually think he'd take it and just be like, yeah, okay. Because, like I've just said, like, he's very much a yes man. Do you know what I mean? He'll probably just be like,
yeah, he seems like a very, I mean, obviously, we don't know him, so we can't really say, but, he seems quite a very relaxed, sort of chill, nice guy. So,
lovely guy. Don't get me wrong.
No, we're not slacking him off personally. We're just saying, like, when it comes to being captain, he doesn't offer enough leadership, in my opinion, doesn't really shout enough. And we all said that when he was made captain. And as you said literally a few minutes ago, he's very, very different player without the likes of a Connor Cody or Craig Dawson next to him, someone that sort of commands him and gets him switched on the whole game. Because a lot of the time when he doesn't have a player like that next to him, he sort of drifts all about, gets struck.
He marauds forwards all the time and loses.
And I understand, there are going to be tactics where he's told to man mark a certain striker, but a lot of the time, as we said, he's pushing to like centre mid, and because we're playing a back five, it leaves such a massive gap for someone to just wander into. It's like, that's not ideal. Let's move on from Max anyway. We'll move on to the sort of remaining few players now. And the sort of bulk of these players is basically the players I'm going to mention now, me and Dan are going to speak about, are the players that Wolves would be open to selling if the offer's right. We'll start with Sarabia. I mean, a player that Wolves had a lot of excitement about when he joined the club because he's such a big name, played for some really big clubs, real good pedigree internationally, club level. A player that Lopetegui really wanted. I mean, he was his priority signing. And it's been a very mixed season for him. I think he's shown glimpses. We all know he's got masses of quality, abundance of class, can create opportunities. But I just think at times he's just not quite physically there. I don't think he's quite sharpness-wise, pace-wise. And for me, with Wolves being Wolves' highest earner, I think certainly wouldn't be too fussed if he was to be moved on.
No,
what do you think about that?
I think if he wasn't on as much money as he is, you think of him more of a squad player next season. And at the same time, I don't think he'd be happy with that. He wants to be in the 11. At all. So it sort of helps all parties by moving him on, in my opinion. He's on far too much money through the sort of performances we've seen.
Probably pushing like 80 to 90 grand a week, I reckon.
Yeah, he's on 90. Which is the same as Semedo.
Yeah, so a very, very high earner. I think it's just not quite happened for him. I think there's definitely, he's had really good moments. For example, the volley against Tottenham. For me, he's a player that I do rate. I do like when he's on the pitch. I like sort of he's always looking forward, always looking to create chances. But he's also quite fortunate, really, to an extent that Neto's been injured for so long, because I don't think he would have started ahead of him. He wouldn't. So it's a weird one, because he actually did have the chances. He can't say because I remember when he got that goal against Tottenham, I think he said in an interview after he'd love to sort of get more opportunities and show what he's about. And then sort of from that period, he did have the opportunity. He was starting pretty much every game. And at one point, he was one of our sort of only senior attackers left. And you were pretty much playing. You were literally playing like him with Fraser and Chiwoma, and it was tough for him at times.
On the other side.
Yeah, literally. So he can't really complain. He was given the minutes, and I don't think his contributions were great. But if he was to say, I'm not too against it, but I also wouldn't be too fussed if he was to depart just due to really like his wages, really.
I don't really think he suits the way we play either, to be fair.
No, because we're quite a transition team, aren't we?
I think he'd suit more of a team where you've got an attacking midfielder, like further forward, I don't think he's quick enough to be on the wing, and I don't think he's physical enough to take a player on the wing either. I think if he cuts in, he'll find a pass and everything, but I think you want that through the middle more, and I don't think that he's really a player in the Wolves system, really, that we need, really, for that reason. If we're ever going to get a player that's going to be a 10, that's going to switch up so much anyway. Cunha probably takes that role straight away, and then you're looking at him on the bench again. So it's like he's not going to be. He's going to want to play football, and he ain't going to do that at Wolves, in my opinion. If last season's anything to go by, at least maybe he might have a really good pre-season. Do you know what I mean? And
well, he had a quite good pre-season last time, didn't he? Like, I remember he scored a free kick or something. But no, I agree. I think he's not going to want to be on the bench, but I would, if he was happy to accept a squad role, I'd take him for the depth, because if we are to get rid of Neto and Sarabia, then, you've got, if anything, you've got to bring another winger in. Unless Chiquinho is sort of brought into the first team and seen as that maybe
I'd
option,
keep him if that was the option. Where
I think we both would,
a squad player. Yeah.
But it's probably not going to happen. And then the next one is Hugeo Bueno. A tough season for him, really. A lot of injuries. Obviously, Ait-Nouri playing absolutely out of his skin. What do you think on him, Dan? Do you think he still has a future at Wolves?
Hugeo Bueno is very frustrating for me, because when he was playing under Lopetegui, he looked like the world was at his feet, and he was going to be, his starting 11 for the next season. But he's just completely lost that position. He's not been able to get as much fitness. He signed a new contract, and it looked really positive. But he had that. He did have a little bit of an injury, and it was kind of knocked him back on confidence, I think. And it could be a massive pre-season for a player like him, to be fair, because I actually think Gary likes him, and if he like we just said, we do need squad depth. Yeah. And I can think of worse players to play off the bench than Hugeo Bueno if he plays the way he played against for Lopetegui.
I think you're completely right. I think it's very much the case that if he was to depart the club, we'd have to sign a left back, and that would just be another issue that we have to do when it's not really our priority.
And they're rare as well. Rare at Santa Claus City. It's ridiculous.
Yeah,
the left backs are not around at all.
So it's a weird one, really. And then the next player is Ki-Jana Hoever, a player that has been at Wolves now for a while, since obviously Jota joined. He come in exchange deal with that, and he's been at Stoke the last 2 seasons. And to be honest, he's had 2 decent loan spells there this season, racking up 4 goals, 5 assists. He's been very good there. I think Alex Neil, when he was manager, rated him. The new manager, Schumacher, I think it is, he rates him as well. A sort of mainstay in that side. But is he good enough for Wolves? I don't know. Whether Wolves want him as a backup, I guess we'll have to see. But I think it's probably time for him to move on a permanent basis.
I would look at him in the pre-season if he wants to come back and see Gary see what he can do. Do you know what I mean? Like Gary O'Neill's a very different manager. He's very good with man management. Do you know what I mean? And
yeah, he is. Yeah.
We haven't had a manager like that since Nuno. And like the managers we've had since Nuno are, if not, they're not good at it at all. They're not good at man management at all. Not like Bruno Lage and Lopetegui are awful at inspiring confidence and getting something out of a player. I actually think that's one of Gary O'Neill's strongest attributes, is the way he can get things out of players. You've seen that this season. You go along all of our players, they've all gained something, do you know what I mean, from Gary O'Neill's coaching. Yeah,
I mean, I think for me the biggest criticism when Lopetegui was here was how he didn't really get the best out of a lot of players. Obviously he kept us up, you couldn't argue with that, but there were a lot of players for me that weren't really getting to their highest potential. And for example, Cunha, Ait-Nouri, there's players that, as you said, due to O'Neill's man management and sort of his belief in them, he's got the best out of them and made, and really important. Well. Yeah, I'm not true. I completely forgot about Hwang Hee-chan. Exactly. I mean, he's epitomises that really. I mean, he looks a completely different player this year. So you can't really argue with that. And then the next player, just these sort of all fringe players now until we get onto a few others. But Chem Campbell, been at Wolves for, I'm looking right now, he's been at Wolves since 2018, so he's been there a while. Been at Wickham, which he's been at previously. When he was there originally, he had quite a good loan spell, but this time it's not really worked out. Only played 8 games. Was at Charlton, I think, for the first part of the season. Played 16 games there, 4 goal contributions. I don't really know what happened there. I don't know whether the managers didn't rate him eventually, because I think they got a new manager, or for whatever reason that loan spell ended. And then, yeah, I think it's very much a player that, for his sort of sake in his career, I think he does need to move on. So can't really complain about that. What do you think?
I think that he has had his opportunity under Wolves for a long time. You know, even in the under 21s and everything, to sort of to show what he's got really.
He did look good in the under 21s. He was certainly Wolves' one of the better players. I don't think you could argue that, but
I think
it doesn't correlate to first team all the time.
That's
does
it. Yeah,
So,
I don't think he's really found enough game time really under Wolves to show us what he's got really. He's always just been a cameo appearance pretty much every game I've seen him in really. So it's hard to see what he would do in a team like us, but looking at his loan spells and everything, I don't think like he's pulled up trees enough for me to think, oh, you know what, we'll have him back. And
no, I completely agree. It's just another player that for me needs to move on. It's as simple as that.
Yeah. Find a home for these players.
Yeah,
like,
100 million%.
They're getting them so
he ain't as young as he. I don't mean this in like a cliche way, but he's not as young as he once was. Like, he's probably, I don't know exactly, but he's probably like 21, 22. Still very young, of course. Got plenty of years ahead of him. But my point is, he's at the stage of his career now where he just needs to be playing regular game time. And
definitely, mate.
I don't think it's I don't think it's fair on these players. For example, the players like I'll mention now, Luke Cundle, Joe Hodge. I don't think it's fair on those players to be just shipped out on loan year after year. I think they need to be playing regular first team football, and they need to find a place that they're going to become a mainstay of that team and a real sort of have a real impact on that team. So yeah, I think those players, I think we all want the best for them. We all want to see them succeed, but I don't think it'll be at Wolves, to be honest. I think those players,
they need to find a mainstay home, and you know, because it's not good to keep, you know, finding new housing and when you've got families and everything. It's really unsettling for people on loan, and I sort of fear for them when they come back to Wolves, because then they've got a lot to prove and everything, and I just don't feel like any of them have that sort of mentality level of that's going to inspire confidence for me to be like, right, that's it, bosh, get him in the team. None of them have that, so just move them on.
And then I was going to end it off with Yerson, but I think there's a few big players that we haven't really discussed, and I think we need to discuss them. And those players are 2 of the 3 players that have been called up to Portugal in the Euros. So first one being Jose Sá. What was said about Jose Sá was there's a lot of interest in him, and if there is sort of a big offer, very similar to sort of Max, he is expected to stay and be Wolves' number 1. But for example, if a big offer comes in, I think of around 20-25 million pounds, it is very likely that Wolves will be tempted to accept that. I think what's been really weird is there's been so many keeper links like the last few months. Not even just in the summer. I mean, even previous, like as the season was going on, Wolves have been linked to a lot of young sort of up and coming keepers. I think there's been one from Villarreal, there's been one from PSV. So we've been linked with a lot of keepers. So it sort of makes you think. Do you know what I mean? It makes you think whether we're looking to get rid of Bentley and get a younger keeper in to eventually be the first choice, or get rid of Jose Sá. It's a really weird one. Would you be looking to get rid of Jose Sá, Dan, or not?
If, from what I've heard, if we want to play with a sweeper style keeper where your defenders push up more and you've got more of a higher line, he's not got that category of play for me. Like, he's very much a more old school, sit on his line, you know, and make fantastic saves goalkeeper, but with the ball at his feet, does not fill me with anything but dread. Every single time the ball touches his feet, I'm thinking, right, get rid of it. You know what I mean? Just get rid of it. I don't feel like confident in his passing ability, and if that's what we want, and that's what I've heard from all the goalkeeping coaching and stuff, he's flat out basically refused to have that sort of role, or at least like sort of throw what he already knows out of the box and start ticking other boxes.
Yeah.
And I don't blame him for that, because that's not the style of player he is. If you want to play like that, then that's fine. But if you don't have that in your locker, it's very, very hard to find that in you when you've been so confident with shot stopping. If you're told then, oh well, now you've got the ball at your feet, and if you're not good at that, it's going to take a long time for you to get better at that, and it's going to also, and then that's also going to impact the things you are good at. So I absolutely understand where Sarr is in this, in my opinion. I feel like he's shown some unbelievable saves, and arguably sometimes kept us in games. So
Certainly, yeah.
for his shot stopping, absolutely keep him. But if we want someone who's going to pass the ball out and have our defensive line further forward, which is what I've been told, then 100%. Especially if we're going to a back four, by the way, that changes everything. If we go into a back four, 100% need a new keeper, because he's not going to be able to be that extra man.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I agree. I think at the end of the day, he's not a modern day keeper, and you need that. But I certainly don't see Wolves playing a back four with the centre backs we have. That's all I'll say.
Gary wants us eventually to play a 4-3.
Yeah, but I think every manager has. I think Bruno Lage wanted it. Look what happened there. So it's a tough one. I think a lot of Wolves fans want to see it, but I just don't think we have the personnel. I think if we was to go to a back four, I don't think our build-up play would be good enough. Anyway, that's for another day. The next player is Semedo. What was said about Semedo was that he's obviously coming into his last year of his contract, and Wolves do want him to stay. Gary Neville absolutely loves him. Obviously, the Players' Player of the Season, had an absolutely exceptional season. Pretty much played every game. I think it was only Max that played more than him, or maybe Sarr, something like that. Didn't really get injured, and was just really consistent. And what basically has been said about him is, if he was to stay at the club, he'd have to accept a pay cut, basically. And if he don't accept that, then he's going to depart, and the club will sort of, not willingly, but sort of unfortunately have to say, well, you're one of our top earners, and that's not the model we're looking for. We're not looking to pay players that high fee anymore, that higher wages. What do you think about Nels?
I do think if we get rid of Sarabia, and and Semedo is our highest earner, you could say this season he has earned his money. He has had a lot of 6 to 7 performances over and over and over again in my match reviews. Very, very little did I think that he hasn't done what he could in even when we've lost games. So if we stayed right, kept on his contract he's on already and just extended it, but also got rid of Sarabia and just said, look, you are our highest earner, but you know what, you've earned it, whatever. I actually think that's a better move, in my opinion, because I don't think you get a better player than Semedo in the current market. Yeah,
I think I'd be keeping him personally. And then you sort of, as the months go on, you'll try sort of speak about a new contract and hope he does sign. There's a lot of players that we haven't mentioned, for example, Bukayo Traore, Totti Gomez, Matt Doherty, Bellegarde, Lamina, and the reason we haven't mentioned them is because they're all expected to stay at the club.
Yeah.
And it's as simple as that, really. I don't think I've missed anyone there. Hwang Yi-chan, obviously.
Definitely staying.
Definitely staying. And then the last player to round this off is a player that's been out on loan, and a player that a lot of Wolves fans want to see as a starting player next season, and that is Yerson Mosquera. I think he had a really good season at Villarreal, technically half a season. He was at Cincinnati still because the MLS season works a bit differently. And then when he was at Villarreal, it took him a bit to get in that starting team. And then eventually, I think if you were to ask a lot of Villarreal fans, he was pretty much their best centre-back as the season ended, which is testament to him, testament to his ability. And in my opinion, I'd certainly want him to be starting next season. I think he's sort of that physical presence. I think he's a long-term player. And yeah, I think it's very much the case that for me, I'll be starting him. And what has been said about that is, as we've sort of tweeted, there's been a lot of rumours recently that he would rather stay in Spain or rather go elsewhere. But what the Athletic have said is Wolves expect him to be happy to stay at the club, which I think will be absolutely huge if that is the case. I'll be absolutely buzzing with that. Yeah. But it's like we've said, isn't it, Dan? I think it is very much the case that as much as I really want him to be starting for Wolves, as much as I want him to stay, if he doesn't want to stay, then I don't. You're going to have to sell him. Do you know what I mean? You don't want it to be like a Gibbs White situation where he's playing the first few games of the season, but he doesn't necessarily want to be here. You want it to be he's committed, he's happy, and he wants to play.
From what I've been sort of told is that he does want to play football, and I do think with our defensive setup at the moment, it is very shaky. You know, you've also got Dawson out of the picture at the moment, so he's
very
much.
Even mentioned Dawson, have we?
Yeah, but he's very much a player that, you know, he basically gets in, if in a way, because Santi Bueno hasn't really filled anyone with much confidence and what have you.
I think Santi's improved. I think people very judgmental of his Ipswich's game.
100%. Against Brighton, mate, he was unreal against Brighton. He's shown some games where I've seen him at Molineux where he's been unbelievably good.
Cool as
he's
a
quite
cucumber,
quick as well.
Yeah.
He's quite fast.
Yeah. He is quite sharp. Yeah, I agree.
So I would actually say, if we do go to a back four, I would definitely say like Yerson is one of those players that actually can play in a back four.
I agree. I mean, he's played in a back four.
So if you think of it like that, and that's what Gary really wants, you know, you do a couple of pre-season games in a back four, you do a couple of training matches in a back four, and see what Yerson can do. You know, if he commands it, you're also looking over your shoulder at Kilman and going, do we need you? Like if you're worth the money you are, and you're going to get the money that you worth, do we really need you? So
yeah, I think I know what you mean. I think it's a tough one. I think right now, if we was to go to a back five next season, I think our back three would be Yerson on the right, Dawson central, and Kilman on the left. That's what I think it'd be. That's what mine would be anyway. I mean, who knows if O'Neill plays that? But I
know Dawson's going to be out for the whole of pre-season, and I don't.
Oh really?
Think he's going. Yeah, and I
what injury is it that Dawson's got again?
Groin injury.
Yeah, it's a shame for him because
he had operation.
As soon as we lost him, we just defensively we were sort of all at sea, weren't we?
From what I've been told, he's not recovering as well as most groin injuries.
It's not surprising. He is getting on, but he's still one of our best defenders, isn't he?
Oh yeah, 100%. He would. No, that would be my 11.
Would you agree with me?
Yeah. But I do feel like with him being out at the moment,
it might mean that. Yeah, I know what you mean.
It might mean Yerson comes in. So
I think I've always been sort of with the opinion that I'd love for us to sign a big money centre back, but at the end of the day, it's not our priority. Unless Max Kilman was to go, then I'd be really pushing for that.
Yeah.
I think, as we've mentioned, our priority is a number 9.
I think we're linked to like 2 centre backs, and
it's
extremely.
It's Carmo and someone else, isn't it? So, yeah, we'll have to see on that. But make sure you are following the Wolfpack on all social medias. I've really enjoyed this episode. It's been really good speaking about it. Sort of similar to the Keep Low and Sell, but we've just sort of been basing it off the information that we've sort of come out in the media today, and then sort of giving our opinion from there. But hopefully you found it insightful. Hopefully you've enjoyed it. As I said, make sure you check out the Wolfpack on all social medias, Wolfpack WWFC on Twitter and Instagram, and the Wolfpack on Facebook, as well as subscribe to our YouTube. Dan has been doing absolutely exceptional work on that. and he's going to continue that as well, because it's a big summer for Wolves, and it's going to be a summer with a lot of twists and turns and a lot of content to make videos on. So I can't wait for it. I'm looking forward to it. It's been good to actually do a YouTube video as well.
Good to have you back, man. Good to have you back.
Feels good. And yeah, thank you everyone for listening and tuning in, and make sure to leave a like, comment and subscribe, and I'll see you in a bit.
Yeah, see you in a bit, guys.